Everyone has nightmares. But for actors, they can take a very different form because their worst nightmares happen when they are wide awake. Hi, I'm Louanne Moldovan, and welcome to The Actor's Nightmare. We have a great story today, but before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsors who have been so supportive of the show. First, a big shout out to Artists Repertory Theater, Portland's premier regional theater company, producing intimate, provocative shows that provide a home for a diverse community of artists where they can thrive and take risks. Check out their 2019-2020 season at www.artistrep.org. Also, thanks so much to our patrons, Bob Conklin, and to Len and Susan Magazine and their company Realistats, providing statistical overviews for residential real estate in Oregon and Washington. Check them out at www.realistats.net. And of course, we are so grateful for the studio at North Rim, where we record our podcast. If you want to do a show, check them out at studioatnorthrim.com. All right, so today we have in the studio Margie Boule. Welcome, Margie.
Thank you. This is the actor's dream come true to sit here and talk to you about these fun things. It's the opposite of an actor's nightmare.
Right. It's the antidote. I want our listeners to know more about your background, in particular about you as a columnist. You wrote for the Oregonian for 23 years.
I did.
You were nominated for a Pulitzer. I'm sitting across a nominee for the Pulitzer Prize. You're a nominee. You're a nominee. Please. That is an incredibly massive honor.
Well, thank you. I mean, it was thrilling for me.
Sure.
To be nominated.
Of course.
And I loved writing. I always wanted to be a writer.
So that's so interesting because you were singing, you were acting, you were doing all these other things, but writing was still...
That was like breathing in our family. Singing and performing was like breathing, but I escaped from the chaos of my insane family by constantly reading. And I eventually decided I wanted to be Lois Lane. Because, think about it, in the 1950s, Lois Lane was the only woman I'm aware of who was doing exactly the same job as a man. She was a reporter, just as Clark Kent was. And sure, he rescued her all the time. But she was a reporter.
She was a writer. She was writing.
Yeah.
And you not only wrote this column, a general interest column, would you call it?
Yeah. I wrote about everything. I wrote light stuff. I wrote a lot of Dumb Crooks columns for years. I did investigative pieces.
Right.
I uncovered government waste. I wrote about crimes. I did stories about murders and went right to the scene. But the things that meant the most to me were when people would call me and just kind of pour their heart out.
Well, I have to say, so you won over 30 journalism awards for that column, Margie.
I don't know the exact.
Yeah, a great number.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, I mean, I heard about you immediately. It's like, you move to Portland and you learn about this and you hear about that. It was Margie Boule, and I got the Oregonian. I subscribed immediately because I was subscribing to the LA Times. I'm a newspaper subscriber, and I read your column every day. So I was one of many who looked forward to it, and I agree with you. The ones that spoke to me were those human interest stories, those ones that you would share a very intimate or heartrending aspect of somebody's life, and it read like a little novella. You have a story. Well, you did a show when you were in high school. I'm sure you did many because you came from this musical family. But this one in particular...
Well, I was doing The Sound of Music.
Sound of Music.
I've done The Sound of Music a lot of times.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah. I did it in a professional production when I was 16 years old. I played Liesel.
Okay.
Then 2 years later, as a senior in high school, my high school production of The Sound of Music, I got to play Maria.
Oh, wow.
And this is nothing that went wrong, but it's just, in a theatrical career, you have special moments that you think about sometimes, and they bring a smile.
Yeah.
But I will never forget the scene. Seems like I'm telling you all about these quick change moments I had, but after Maria and Captain Von Trapp get married, they had us walk down the center aisle and go out through the lobby of the theater and then run around the back to change. And it's a quick change for me. And so I was I entered the theater from behind, and it's backstage, and this is where the whole chorus is, and the chorus, of course, is everyone who is in our high school choir, right? And I look around, and all I see is nuns making out with Nazis. Everyone's kissing and then clutching and groping and writhing, and it's nuns and Nazis. And I just remember thinking at the time, as I'm changing as fast as I can, I will never forget this image. It was a high school production. There were a lot of hormones backstage,
Oh my God.
But I remember that. But
It gives theater the name we've seemed to earn through the ages.
exactly, it's not a theater's. It's not an actor's nightmare, but it certainly is an odd memory.
Well, it could have been if it stopped you from, but you moved on.
No, I definitely moved on. But I did have a personal catastrophe on stage one time. And
Little Shop?
Little Shop of Horrors. First of all, just a bit of background. I was introduced to Little Shop of Horrors when I went to New York City. I'd go a couple times a year just to see theater.
Fun.
And there was buzz on the street, an off-Broadway production of a show called Little Shop of Horrors. I'd never heard of a horror musical.
Right.
But it was intriguing. So I bought a ticket for the matinee. I was in town by myself, so I just went by myself. And I'd never in my life seen a production that was so electric. The energy was unbelievable. The people were so talented. I didn't know there were humans on earth who were so talented.
Wow.
It was so good. And of course, I immediately thought, I have to play Audrey, the cheap, trashy blonde. I must play Audrey at some point. But I was so enthralled by it that on my way out, I bought a ticket for the production that same evening.
Wow.
I grabbed a bite to eat and came back.
So 2 times in one day.
And the production I saw was horrible.
Wait a minute. The same show?
The same show, the same actors. Low energy, missing all their laughs. I mean, what the heck? At intermission, I went and grabbed something at the snack bar, and I said, wow, I saw this afternoon. This is really kind of almost a different show tonight. And he goes, oh, I can tell you why. He said, this afternoon, Steven Spielberg was in the audience. He just bought the rights. They were all auditioning for the movie.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
And a couple people in that cast were cast in the movie.
Were
Ellen
they?
was, yeah.
So were they just so unnerved or what?
I think they were auditioning and wanted to impress Steven Spielberg, and then they exhausted themselves, and he wasn't there in the evening, so they were taking a break.
Oh, my gosh, Margie. Wow. Wow. Did you ever get to do the show?
I did, as a matter of fact, and that's the story I really wanted to share with you today.
Yeah.
We did Little Shop of Horrors, and I was cast as Audrey, the cheap, trashy blonde. And we did that show for years.
Really?
I mean, it sold so well. It was at Portland Civic Theater, and then we took it down to the Brit Festival. We were invited to do it there. And then later, I actually did it in Chicago and a few other cities whenever actresses got sick or got married and they needed a replacement for a while, I would come in and do the part again.
Well, how do you mean? I mean, a production that had nothing to do with the Portland show, but you let them know about you?
No, word of mouth in theater.
Yeah. Okay.
And people would say, this Margie Boule in Portland, she played it for 5 years in Portland.
She's
she knows
ready to go.
She knows every line.
Yeah.
But we were doing it in Portland, and just a little background. Audrey is a cheap, trashy blonde, and she's got to have a va-va-voom figure. And I probably weighed 115 at 5'8". I was very skinny.
Very thin.
So through the miracle of modern engineering, they crafted a bra so that I appeared to be much
voluptuous.
more. Yeah, they put the voom in va-va-voom. And so at any rate, through most of the show, I was wearing, kind of tight, low-cut dresses. But in the scene where I die, it's in the middle of the night, and I show up at the flower shop, and I'm wearing a virginal white long nightgown with long sleeves. And I go over to the plant, and the plant grabs me and injures me, but Seymour comes in and pulls me out, but I'm dying in his arms, okay? And then we have a sweet little scene. Now, I want to explain how the set worked for this. If anyone's seen Little Shop of Horrors in the theater, there's a great big foam plant, and by big I mean gigantic foam plant. There's a guy inside who's making the mouth move when the plant talks. There's a guy off stage who's singing the part of the plant and saying
and making the mouth move when it's eating people.
The guy inside is making the mouth move. The guy off stage is just saying
Right,
lines and singing.
but
Right.
yes.
But yes, he makes the mouth move when he's eating people too. And the plant is an important character. Plant has a lot of lines.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this particular scene, Seymour, played by the brilliant Randall Stewart, is, comforting me as I die. And then he has to pick me up. Poor Randall. I mean, I'm like 5 inches taller than he is. He had to pick me up every night and after I'm dead and feed me to the plant. And then the plant stops talking for a while. I guess it's digesting. And Randall's feeling guilt and anger and threatening to kill the plant, et cetera, et cetera. And then end of scene. And then the lights come up and it's a new scene and the plant needs to speak again. Okay, so Randall has just put me in the plant. And typically what I would do is I would curl up in a little ball inside the plant, turn around. So I'm on my back with my feet pointed toward the audience. I would stick my hands above my head out a hole in the very back of the plant, which met a hole in the set. And then we had a high school intern who would grab my hands and pull me out.
Through that hole?
Through that hole. And then then we would have to crawl really on our stomachs pretty much because hands and knees, we would be too tall to get back to the wings because there's a window in the shop.
Right.
Okay, so we had to be below the level of a window. This particular night, Randall puts me in the plant, something happens, and my nightgown gets caught in the plant. And I can't turn around, and I can't move. I'm paralyzed. I can't move anything. I'm wearing this gown. And the guy, Chris, who's running the plant, says, what's going on? Why are you still in here? And I'm like, I'm stuck. And he goes, well, I have to talk pretty soon. So I unbutton the nightgown and I take it off. And I'm trying not to wiggle too much because the scene is still ending. And I take it off. So I'm down to this huge bra. And
the va-va-va-boom bra.
The va-va-voom bra and my little bikini panties.
Oh, my God.
And I stick my hands out the hole. And the high school guy pulls me out, this little high school kid. And by the time he gets to the va-va-voom, he goes, holy shit. Because usually I'm in a virginal white nightgown, and tonight I'm not wearing much. And so he pulls me out. So he pulls me out. And usually I would crawl ahead of him off to the wings. This night I said, you crawl out first. And he goes, no, I'll follow you. And I'm like, no, you're not following me. I'm wearing almost nothing. Yes. You are not following me. You are going first. I am following you. And then when the plant had a talk,
your nightgown?
When the nightgown was flapping inside.
My God. Which kind of works. It's kind of macabre. Like the plant ate your body, didn't want the nightgown.
I know. But, Randall's reaction. And later he told me, he said when he started talking in the cameras, he was like, where's Margie? Oh, my God, what's going on?
She got eaten by the plant. Oh, my God. And I'm sure, again, talking about the audience's gullibility, willingness to suspend disbelief, probably thought that was, that's an extra touch.
Yeah, the nightgown's still in. Yeah, but she's gone. How did they do that?
How did they do that? Oh, man.
It's one of many catastrophes in my theatrical career.
So you had a story about doing Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, actually, I did Guys and Dolls. I've done Guys and Dolls several times.
Okay.
I kept wanting to be Adelaide, the cheap, trashy blonde. But, just for a decade and a half, I could only be cast as the insipid soprano who got married in the end.
Okay.
I think at one point I did maybe 12 musicals in a row where I was wearing a bridal dress at the end of the show. And so I kept auditioning for Guys and Dolls, one of my favorite musicals, brilliant musical.
Yeah.
And I would audition for Adelaide, and then I would get Sarah. And let me tell you, Sarah is the lead. It's a fantastic part. I was so grateful to be given an opportunity to perform. So I don't want to sound like, I didn't want the lead. But when you're a soprano, you always kind of want to play the second lead who gets the laughs and
the character part.
Yes, exactly. I really think I'm a character actress, and it took everything I had to play those straight leads. But anyway, so one time I was doing Guys and Dolls. This is not the story I meant to tell, but I'll just briefly tell you. We were doing a Guys and Dolls production, and we started thinking it was cursed. Crazy things were happening. Just standing off stage waiting to go on. A wrench fell from up above. I mean, that could have killed somebody if it hit him on the head. And right after Adelaide had finished one of her nightclub numbers, there was a scene going on in the nightclub, and another number was going to start up, and the set fell over on the actors who were crowded around the tables in the nightclub.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
the set just started leaning forward. You could hear the audience go, and then it just landed on their heads.
Did they get hurt?
No one got hurt.
But the audience saw this, had the set collapsing.
Exactly. So finally, one of the cast members his parents were Italian, and his mother came in and gave some kind of incantation to chase the curse away. But the more serious episode that happened to me was when I finally was cast as Adelaide.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I was 50 years old.
Where was this?
This was in Portland, and it was with the Oregon Symphony.
Oh, great.
And the way they did it is it's a full production. It's not on book or anything like that. It is staged. Your lines and the songs are memorized. But behind you on this huge symphonic stage is the entire symphony orchestra. It's the most thrilling way to do a musical, to hear that incredible music with a full orchestra, because these days, even on Broadway, they cut the parts down and use electronics. But when you have an entire contingent of professional musicians, it's thrilling.
I bet.
So I was playing Adelaide, and I had just finished Take Back Your Mink, Take Back Your Poils, take back your mink, that kind of thing. And I had to run off stage, run to my dressing room, do a very quick change, and come back on stage. So as I'm running back to my dressing room, I start to take these gigantic pearls off, and they get caught. The pearls somehow, I don't know, got twisted or something.
Oh, no.
And so I started to yank on it to try to get them off.
Sure.
And it tightened them, and then it caught.
Oh.
I could not even, my neck was so compressed, I could not even take a breath.
Oh, my God.
I'm
You're
constricting
strangulating
I'm
yourself.
constricting my neck now. And no one was around. I have reached my dressing room. I have to be on stage in a matter of 30 seconds or less. I have to do a big costume change, and I couldn't breathe, and I was panicking, and I was trying to break the pearls, and I couldn't do it. And I ran to a stagehand, stage left, and I'm pointing, and the tears are coming down my face. And he grabs the pearls and yanks and breaks them, and pearls go all over, including onto the stage.
Oh, my God.
And I hear my cue, and the actors on stage have no idea where I am. They're having to ad-lib. I run back to the dressing room. I change my costume, and I make my entrance. And for a solid day, there was a red mark around my neck.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
Margie, you
it was-
could have died back there.
I couldn't breathe.
Oh, that's frightening.
It's
It's terrifying.
You hear about someone being strangled to death or
Yes.
something like that, but until you've reached a situation where you literally cannot take breath in, you don't realize how terrifying it is.
No, I am imagining it now, and it's utterly
It was horrible.
horrifying.
It was a nightmare.
So yes, it's a
this
bona
is not one
fide.
of the funny stories.
No.
This was a scary story.
Now, so there you were. He pulls it. Anyway, how much time elapsed between you getting back to stage, and what were your fellow actors doing out there?
Well, they're professionals.
Yeah.
And it was two guys, and they were waiting for Adelaide, and I didn't hear them.
Yeah.
But I presumed that they were ad-libbing. I mean, they were understandably upset at me for missing my cue. But when I told them what had happened, and they saw the marks on my neck,
God.
and the stagehand was like, "Oh my God!"
Oh.
So yeah.
So when and I can't imagine that having the wherewithal, but this is what happens, right? The adrenaline's pumping.
Oh yes.
And even though you just nearly strangulated yourself to death, you had the wherewithal to get in that costume and get out there and continue the show as though nothing had happened.
That's what we do, isn't it?
It is what we do.
Because the audience doesn't need to have me come out and go, "I just about died, you guys. I'm sorry I missed my cue, but look at this. I'm still dizzy."
Oh my
No,
gosh.
I'm not going to do that.
Oh, Margie.
I'm not going to do that.
Wow.
So
Well, thanks
I'm
for
happy
being
to
here
share.
today.
Oh, it was fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into The Actor's Nightmare. If you have a story you'd like to share and want to be on the show, it's really easy. Just record it into your phone and send it in an email to actorsnightmarepodcast@gmail.com. And remember to subscribe to the Actor's Nightmare podcast. You can go to our website at www.actorsnightmarepodcast.com. choose subscribe, and then choose the platform that you like to use to listen to podcasts. Please subscribe if you like what you hear. And again, I want to thank our sponsors, Artist Repertory Theater, Portland's premier regional theater company, and to Bob Conklin, an ardent sponsor of all things theatrical here in Portland. And finally, to Realestats, providing statistical overviews for residential real estate in Oregon and Washington. This is Louanne Moldovan. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time on The Actor's Nightmare.